We are back with another surf report. This one for the 8th of October to 14th. And I should probably move this date over so you can see it. There we go. How's everybody doing? Comments below. Were we accurate last week? Was it a freeing event? Was it a freeing week? Was it energy that you could use last week? This week, it's going to look scary because guess what? We're back to another T-square. Not just one, but a T-square smorgasbord. Check this out. T-square smorgasbord. We're going to look at all the astrology. I've just got like little archetypes here, metaphors. There's too many T-squares to even mention. There's multiple ones commensurate with Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn that we've been talking about for weeks on end. That's where the focus is because Pluto, it's the Pluto depths, commensurate, overlapped with the I-Ching reading, which is the dangerous depths. I know that sounds scary, but keep breathing, keep relaxing because the solution is magnificent. You're going to love what the Dreambot has. That's the green circle. And again, for those of you who are new, we're looking for the overlap of energies. We have the Dreambot, which is the collective unconscious. The collective mind has an influence on us individually. We have the Tropical Astrology, T-squares, where you've got an opposition, and then those oppositions meet with two squares down to a center point where it looks like a right triangle. And that's called a T-square. It's kind of like a trapped energy. So anyway, we look for the overlap with the I-Ching, the Dreambot, and the astrology, and we come up with the main influence, which in this week is none other than the Pluto influence, the Pluto archetype, which is not just death and rebirth, which kind of indicates a lot of conflict, but it's also inner power. It's inner power because it's deep inner power. It's like you don't even know it's there kind of thing unless you're really aware. And that's what Pluto offers. It offers this cold, distant, deep sense of power, but also this unease that something has to be given up in order to progress. So it's like this death rebirth thing. And what we don't know, when we go through these Pluto events, it feels like the end, but really it's the beginning. And that's how Pluto works. But there's a lot of inner power there. The goal here is to see how the solution, whenever we do these CIRF reports, the solution is at the end of these reports, we do the same process. We do a triangulation process to figure out what best behaviors can utilize the energies for your best good. And so what we're going to try and do is to gather the most power out of this Pluto influence rather than the conflict. So that's the goal. Hang with me. We're going to talk about the Dreambot first and then the astrology, and then we'll get to the solution. Do all that next. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and we do these reports every Wednesday. I do plan on eventually having some more content here, but at least it's the Wednesday forecast for the following week. And we look for the main influence. That's that slide on the right bottom corner. And then later we'll be talking about the solution or how to navigate this energy. Check this out. This is Carl Jung's collective unconscious. And the red arrows is the bulk of it. It's the collective moving forward. It's all about driving. It's traffic. Even Batman had a Batmobile. Rabbits go fast. But what about midnight? This is in a segmented red arrow. What does midnight have to do with moving forward? It's the Midnight Riders. You guys knew that, right? The Midnight Riders implies that we're not just moving forward in the daytime or out in the light. We're doing work in the back side of things, in the under the table, the parts of the places that can't be seen to provide influence going forward. So anyway, it's even scooter and progress and active, team, car. It's all about moving forward at a collective level. We're all headed in the same direction. And then the blue arrows, here's what's really interesting. It's like a dark night of the soul, and it's cold, Arctic, and snow for the left, and for the killer, and for the crime, for the idiots. It is a cold, dark day for the criminals. Does this not look like the Q movement? Does it not look like that? And you can't stop what's coming. That's implied here. Now, the other way that you could look at the Arctic and the snow is that maybe there's something in the Arctic, the Antarctic region. There's a video that was out recently with looked like the Egyptian pyramids, but not in Egypt. It was in Antarctica. So that's interesting, but that points back to the ley lines and ancient, the secret history of geography and exploring and science, the ancient science that we've hidden so well unnecessarily. But anyway, let's go to the astrology. Yes, folks, we are looking at another T-square, and here we have here's your opposition that I mentioned, and then you have the two squares are right here and right here. That's the Sun square Pluto, and you've got Mercury, well, that's the opposition, Sun square Jupiter, and then Mars is on the other side of the square. So right here, Mars squared Jupiter. So Mars and Sun are, well, I'll show you in the depiction. Just realize this is where the T-square is coming from, but it's not the only energy. It's not going to feel all that trapped, because at the pinnacle of this T-square is Pluto. I'm going to show all that later. But you have opportunities here. You have a trine with Venus and Uranus. You know what? Let me just show you that later. At the end of the week, I may not mention this again, so this is the last thing I'll point out on this slide, is that Mercury is going to go retrograde towards the end of this week. Okay, and it's in Scorpio, so whatever square it produced, it might most likely produce another square later. So we get to look forward to that. All right, let's move forward. Thursday, the 8th. Here's the first T-square, and it's a double T-square. So you got the Sun, like I mentioned, and Mars, those two in opposition, and then the two 90-degree squares over to Pluto and Jupiter. So this is the optimistic transformation. But as the week drones on, it's going to be centered more on Pluto, and that's where the deep depths are. That's what the I-Ching was pointing us at. We're going to get to the I-Ching later too. Now, one thing that I want to mention here, part of Fortune and Venus getting close together on Thursday. So very fortunate to have that Venus energy. But here's the problem with Venus. Venus is considered in a fall in Virgo. And if you can imagine, it's not hard to imagine why she's in a fall. And what is the fall? It's not like she's falling down or anything. It's just that there's less ease there. It's a little bit uneasy. It takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit sluggish. Whatever that influence is, it's in a fall. And Venus, she's in a fall. So she's in Virgo, which means that she's now she really notices a lot of problems now as she's getting ready to go out. She's getting her makeup on. She's trying to look beautiful. Now she's really noticing all the discrepancies and taking a lot longer. But nonetheless, you still have a trine over to Uranus. So this ability to change the material side of things is easy energy with Venus. So even though she's busy nitpicking herself to death, it's still easy to change. So that's the good side of this. And it's fortunate to be in this Venus energy. So just realize that when you're in the Venus energy of beauty, harmony, peacemaking, and even finance, it could take a little bit longer. It could be a little bit sluggish. It could be a little bit frustrating. Okay. And this is different than last week. So it's not like you need to just take the path of least resistance. This week is a lot different. You're going to be in that little bit of resistance. I'm not talking huge hurdles or anything. I'm not talking about showstoppers, but it's just this nuisance that Venus is going to have. It's good to be in that. All right. It's going to be fortunate, especially early in the week. And you're going to have an opportunity over to passionate thinking Mercury. It's in watery, deep Scorpio. But this is the other side of the deep depths. All right. So in your mind, because Mercury is your thoughts, short distance travel, communication, adaptive thinking, learning, that kind of thing. But he's in Scorpio. So deep, passionate, dark, even very dark thoughts, potentially, maybe resentful or vindictive thoughts. There's an opportunity if you combine thoughts with harmony, or thoughts with these deep, passionate thoughts with the nitpicking, beauty, harmony, finance. All right. So I say this, I'm taking extra time here because that it's going to be the rest of the week. Maybe the part of fortune's not going to be there, but Venus is going to be the highlight for the little of opportunity that you have in this tropical layout, for tropical astrology layout. This is your opportunity all week. All right. Otherwise, you're going to be, and this isn't a bad thing. It's going to sound bad as I say it, but otherwise, your energy is to be trapped in Pluto in this T-square. And now normally we want you to not be in this trap, but the I-Ching and the rest of the CIRF report showing us that, hey, there's another opportunity here, and it's really deep. It's really powerful. And if we can excavate it right, this collective can move forward this week in large leaps. All right, let's move forward. Oh, here we go. This is the big day. Yeah, Venus is in a fall. This is the last of that part of fortune, as they're pretty much hanging out together. Again, part of fortune's not an entity or a planet. It's a position. It's the distance between the sun and the moon. All right, so look at all the T-squares. You've got moon oppose Jupiter, so that's making a T-square with the sun. Now your ego is feeling trapped. And then you've still got the previous T-square with Mars, Sun, and Pluto from the day before. So you've got a 90-degree cross here. That's kind of signifies maybe a big sacrifice of some sort. That's your typical cross, or maybe a crossroads, that sort of thing. I'm not saying that's going to be a prominent energy, but T-square is going to feel conflicted all day on Friday. And so I'm recommending just being up here in this sort of dissatisfied Venus. That's probably just going to be the best place to be on Friday. And it'll be hopefully fortunate for you. If you can live in that kind of irritation, it's, again, not a huge hurdle, or it's not showstoppers, it's just nuisance in things related to harmony, peace, beauty, love, passion, sex, that sort of thing. All right. On Saturday, getting into the weekend, I'm going to call this thing the trap, because there's other traps, but this is the trap for the week. This is the T-square. And the other T-square, as you can see, is the moon Pluto now. It's not the sun now. It's moved, the T-squares move over to Mars and the moon. All right. So still some more conflicted energy. Still good to be over in this sector, the Venus sector. You're not wrong being over there, but it might be hard to stay over there because of just all maybe the problems that you're seeing, or the friction that seems to be there, taking a little longer for things to manifest. All right, Sunday, the 11th, The emotions are trapped now. There's another T-square. This one's on the moon this time. Mercury and Uranus. So your thoughts are changing, adapting to the material world with Taurus. And again, the moon whips around here pretty fast. So this T-square doesn't last even all day. But the energies can be linger plus or minus 12 hours, I guess, and around that exact T-square. And then again, Venus is out there with opportunities all by her lonesome and kind of maybe just a little bit irritated. All right. But again, there's your the T-square is with Pluto. And I'm going to keep highlighting that because that's where the main energy is, according to our I-Ching. 3 oppositions this week. So you've got, I mentioned the Mercury Uranus changing thoughts. You have now Venus oppose Neptune. Opposition kind of implies conflict, but that's not correct. It's more of a balancing act. You're balancing this nuisance in looking beautiful with the fantasy that you have of Neptune showing you maybe an illusion. Maybe all the irritants of Venus are just an illusion. So that's the important part of just hanging with the Venus energy, if you can. The trap is still there, and it's Pluto. It's centered around Pluto. On Tuesday, we have the moon entering in close hands with Venus. And, it almost looks like a grand Earth trine, but no, not so much. But this is the highlight area. This is the beneficial area, even though Venus is in a fall. We got the emotions now with it. And, the moon, emotions in Virgo is going to be the detail-oriented thing, and kind of the shoulds are going to be in there. So imagine that part of that towards the end of the week. It's going to be more like drudgery. I have to do this kind of stuff, or I should do this stuff. I'm not suggesting that you should obey these shoulds. In the emotions, I recommend being with the emotion, but not getting lost in the emotion, not waddling in it, not honoring all these thoughts and pouring fuel into the fire. Your part of fortune now is with the changing thoughts in Mercury and Scorpio. So it is beneficial to recognize that your thoughts are changing, and they're going to be hidden anyway because it's in Scorpio. Scorpions don't like to be in the light. And your thoughts are the same way. You're going to have some weird thoughts. If you can be in awareness, in diffusion with your thoughts, then you can be aware that they're there and not get lost in them. That would be a really great thing. And then finally, the T-square is decaying. You can see the opposition is decaying. Remember, Mars is in retrograde, and so when it finally reaches this zenith and starts progressing back direct, that's going to produce all this same stuff again. May not be a T-square per se, but all these squares will get hit again. And then Mercury is going to end up going retrograde. And you hear a lot about Mercury retrograde, maybe nostalgia, maybe looking towards the past, maybe redoing some certain thoughts and arranging different plans and communication that didn't happen before, or short distance travel is problematic, that sort of thing, unfortunately. But that's the week in a nutshell in terms of astrology. When we do the I-Ching reading, we get a very Plutonian result. This is the dangerous depths. Hexagram 29. We've been here before, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but remember, it's exposure to danger brings good fortune to those who move beyond it. This implies, folks, that it's saying ignore. It's almost like ignoring the danger. That's not what we're saying. It's don't be afraid of the danger. Don't be afraid of hardship. It's saying that this is going to hone you. It's going to make you stronger. When you endure it, you're going to get a big benefit from that endurance. All right. The inner bubble of calm in the midst of chaos. That's what I'd like to highlight the most in this dangerous depths, is that there's always a very deep sense of calm in the midst of chaos if you can learn to tap into it. And it's going to be that Pluto influence, the archetype of Pluto. This is your inner power. So you're going to have to be touching, go nice inside the body, deep inside the body, inside the mind, and excavate this inner power that you have. Get in touch with that vulnerable, deeper sense of you. And there's where the major influence is. So if you feel conflicted, realize that Pluto is there, the influence is there, and all you have to do is find the power in that. Courage at times like these springs from focused attention and brave willingness to penetrate the moment of peril to its very core, to reshape and transform it. We have two change lines right here. We have 1 and 5. So, harm will come to those who make a habit of taking unnecessary risks without thinking. So, think before you act in this case. Again, this isn't the solution per se, but we don't get lines in the solution I-Ching. We only get it in the influence. So we just take whatever it has for us, and we can combine it into the solution if needed. There is no safety net below. Let's see. Like a performer who suddenly discovers in the middle of an act, there is no safety net below. The reality of one's risk-taking may sneak up on a person at the worst time, even though the dilemma has been obvious to everyone else. Caught in such a predicament, there is little to do but care to avoid further recklessness and focus on maintaining your balance as best you can. So line 1 is expect to be out of balance and just remember to maintain your balance. Line 5 is excessive ambition takes one to the brink of danger. So I would say, like you're on the freeway, it's best to just kind of be in the mix, not standing out, not going too fast, too slow. It's the difference. That's a differential in speed that causes these wrecks. It's not really the actual speed. It's being in the flow with everyone else. In this case, I think is what line 5 is saying, and so not excessive ambition. All right. So before we get into the solution, here's a word from our sponsor. This is the number 3 Google result. When you get into cannabis cooking, this is a great site to go to. It's only been around for less than a year. Cannacook.com, and it will show you how to infuse your food on all sorts of different recipes. Infuse your medicine with the food. All right. And with that, let's start into the solution. You put the change lines into the hexagram of dangerous depths, and you get hexagram 19, approach of spring. Now, doesn't this sound different? Spring is coming. Good times seem inevitable. Good times seem inevitable. This is a perfect match to the Dreambot. And there is vitality in the air. This is a most auspicious time, like snake emerging from hibernation. Negative forces are only beginning to stir and can be effectively controlled. This is a time of hopeful progress that must be used to one's best advantage. When approaching good fortune, conscientious work plays great dividends. So think before you act. That's just what we heard in the last I-Ching. So act now, for at some point the ripe opportunity for advancement will be challenged. What it's saying here is this is the time to move forward, just like the Dreambot said. So it's get in the flow and get at the same speed, be on the same page as the collective, and the criminals are going to have a cold day in hell. No spring lasts forever. It is wise to stay alert and note the changing signs of the times. So we don't want to just be on cruise control and just throw caution to the wind. It's actually take this time to prepare for less fertile times. It might get worse before it gets better, especially as the rats start running from the problems. Okay? Expect it. Expect things to get more chaotic, more confusing, as the rats try to find a new home. All right. Now we get into the solution in terms of Sidereal and Rave. So we already indicated why we chose Pluto. It's the deep, dark depths and power inside of us. So we plot that, and that shows up at in Tropical Capricorn, and it shows up in the latter part of hexagram 61 on the Rave mandala. We're going to talk about that next. And it also shows us if you were able to see Pluto in the night sky, you'll know that it's actually in Sidereal Sagittarius. So when you're standing out on the earth, Sidereal was what you're seeing play out right now. The tropical is based on our ancestors, or a couple thousand years ago. That's where these first houses and zodiac signs were established in the constellations. Well, the constellations have moved because of the spin or wobble of the earth. So we're going to be looking at hexagram 61 and the Sagittarius solution. Take our highlighter off. 61 is the gate of mystery. We've been here before, folks, and this is going deep. Isn't it amazing how it seems like the Rave mandala is a perfect I can't imagine the last time that the Rave mandala wasn't a perfect bridge in between the influence and the solution. It's like a little element of both. And that's the case today for this week. The pressure, okay, so let me see. There's a symmetry of opposition, the fighter, obstruction, the provocateur, and inner truth are aspects operating out of different frequencies but doing the same work. So we need a provocateur and we need obstruction. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw in the Dreambot. We had a provocateur. These are the criminals. And we have obstruction, which is, you can look at it as the inner conflict, or you can look at it as the Arctic and things are getting cold. But the inner truths are aspect operating out of different frequencies but doing the same work. Unique inspiration is both struggle and provocation. So the potential of struggle is staying alive in the now. The potential of provocation is the discovery of the spirit. The potential of inner truth is silence. Does that ring a bell, folks? Well, let me read. It was in hexagram, or I'm sorry, in the line 6 in the Rave mandala 61, is the inner truth, the awareness of universal underlying principles, the profound attunement to the collectivity that can lure the public to a truth, inspiration that can bring clarity to the collective. This is a perfect match to what the Dreambot was showing, and it was undoubtedly the biggest influence in the collective. Was we're driving forward together, and we're driving forward to capture or take care of or resolve these insane criminals. A reliance on shop-worn clothes. Now this is the decrement, and Mars is in decrement, actually. A reliance of shop-worn cliches and slogans that may be new in their level of energy, but inevitably fall on deaf ears. The delusion that inspiration can bring clarity to the collective. So it's not just a one-sided energy in these I-Ching readings. They're always the upside of it and the downside. So the upside is that we are on the path for public truth. We are on the path for to resolving lifelong slavery, basically, at a collective level. All right, folks, I've given you all the influences and part of the solution. It's time for the solution slide, but let's listen to our other sponsor. Hold on. You notice that little light bulb? We're turning the light on. That's the inner power. That's your Pluto power. And it might feel like conflict. It might feel like the end, but it's really the beginning. And if you can feel that ending pressure, that could be your Pluto. And if you can locate the power in that, it's in the same location. So deep inner conflict and power is what the influence is. This, by the way, is Pluto. It's a cold planet way far away and moves very, very slowly, but is so secretly powerful. All right, let's look at the solution. This is what you've all been waiting for. Thanks for holding up and waiting for this. The I-Ching member said 19, the approach of spring. Negative forces are only beginning to stir and can be effectively controlled. So as above, so below, the negative forces are easily controlled effectively. That's beautiful. Rave mandala, the gate of mystery, the potential of inner truth is silence. That reminds me of the silent majority. And why are they so silent? Are they scared? No. Confidence brings surety. Confidence brings knowledge that things are going to be okay. It's the inner truth. Inner truth is silence. You don't have to prove anything. I don't have to burn down houses to prove something. I don't have to get attention. The inner truth just is. And it's confidence, inspiring, and it's very peace-ridden. Sidereal Sagittarius, we've used this quite a bit recently, but it's wide-ranging, it's optimistic, philosophical. Remember your spiritual life here this week. These are all the solutions, but we look for the very middle because we want to pinpoint and get the very best solution for you. So here it is. This is an extension of last week's rise. Remember, we were cutting the ties, cutting the heaviness so that we can rise naturally. This time it's acting now to advance, controlling negative influences. So it's acting now. Do what you can do right now because it's a move forward. It's controlling negative influences very effectively. That's as above, so below. So archetypically, you see these criminals easily contained, and we're finding them. But in your own life, what about the negative influences? It should be an easy week to contain us. That doesn't sound like very logical, right? We have a T-square. Well, the T-square is trapped in the Pluto influence. If you do this right, the Pluto influence has infinite amounts of inner power, and it's silent, and there's just knowing, and it's trusting, and it's pushing forward with that knowing state. So increased awareness, and part of that is finding the negative influences around and dealing with them. And not in fear, but in, hey, let's whack these moles, whack-a-moles. Prepare for less fertile times. So saving money if need be. That's that Venus influence. Enough on that. The I-Ching suggests the time is now ripe for getting out of hibernation and that good times seem inevitable. Rave, as the Rave mandala, asks you to attune to your inner knowing, which will bring inspiration to the collective. So as you tap into your inner power and inner awareness, you will influence the collective at a small level, but the more of us that do this have a bigger impact on the collective in general. We want the collective to be inspired, and we don't do it by making them change their mind. We don't do it by making them see life in a different way. They have to find it. And so the best way for them to find it is for you to find your inner power. This is the Sagittarius part, remain optimistic, independent, expansive, remain in your spiritual routine while avoiding impatience and confrontation. That's what the Sagittarius behaviors tend to show up as on the negative side. Impatience and confrontation can be impulsive. We already knew that it's time to think before you act this week. Act consciously, have good awareness, move forward. This is this big old summary. Move forward in silent knowing, in ultimate confidence. It's moving forward with the others. We saw that in the Dreambot. It's the collective moving forward, driving forward together where we band together, where we go one, we go all. This is the epitome of everything coming together. And so silent knowing, you don't need to voice it too loud. It's the best you can do for the collective is just find your inner power and emanate that mentally, emanate that in your meditations, quietly just push that out. Don't force it on others. Just emanate it like a lighthouse, like a candle. You're emanating the light. Some people will see it. Some people will feel it. Some people won't be affected by it at all. But if you've affected one with this method, then you've done your work. If you've influenced more, but honoring free will, all right? That's the Sagittarius as well. All right, everybody, if you got comments, please put them down below. Appreciate your likes and shares. I really do appreciate you being here. I hope you're getting good stuff out of this, and have a great week. Seek that inner power. I believe in you. Let's all do this together. Where we go one, we go all. See ya.